Martin Regna is on the move, trying to corral killers roaming around Houston.
Hey, 1-2, we're on our way. We'll be there in around 15 minutes.
This is what he's looking for: mosquitoes, culprits behind a growing public health crisis. Mosquitoes are now testing positive for tropical diseases which are spreading across America. Regna and his crew are on the front line fighting back, and they have their hands full.
We're trying to keep them alive until we get back to the lab.
Houston is now one of the world's top 10 hot zones for tropical diseases. That's why Regna is out every day, checking some of the county's 268 mosquito traps. Why are these mosquitoes enemy number one for you?
Because they are the ones that cause these illnesses.
And these illnesses are serious.
They are serious.
Illnesses you're more likely to associate with sub-Saharan Africa than Houston, Texas.
Ascariasis and hookworm infection and schistosomiasis, elephantiasis, river blindness, Chagas disease, leishmaniasis. I can say them faster than anybody.
These are names most people could barely pronounce,
That's right.
let alone has any knowledge about what they do.
That's exactly right. I call them the most important diseases you've never heard of. All of the bottom billion, the billion people in the world who live on no money, has at least one of these neglected tropical diseases.
Including 12 million Americans, nearly all undiagnosed, according to Baylor College's Dr. Peter Hotez, one of the world's leading experts in neglected tropical diseases. Neglected because there is so little research being done on them, and no FDA-approved medicines or vaccines.
I thought when we started finding widespread neglected tropical diseases about a year after I moved here in Houston and Texas, I thought, wow, people are really going to care about this issue. And it was just the opposite. Nobody cared. Why?
Because most victims are poor. Not exactly the ideal demographic for big pharma, says Dr. Hotez. He showed us why some impoverished areas in America, like this one in Houston, are breeding grounds for neglected tropical diseases.
On the right-hand side is piles of discarded tires.
Stray dogs, run-down homes, broken windows. Heaven for disease-carrying bugs.
What you'll see on the bottom here on either side of the street are these big drainage ditches that fill up with water. These provide perfect breeding grounds.
While they're considered diseases of poverty, they're also perceived as an immigrant problem. And that needs to change, says Dr. Hotez.
We've got to get over this mentality that these are not diseases that are coming across our southern border. They're, for the most part, diseases where we're having transmission here in the United States.
Case in point, Candace Stark, born and raised in Texas.
I did not live in a mud hut. I live right here in Texas. I grew up in a brick home. I don't live in poverty. I've never even been on a cruise, so I've never left and went to another country.
And yet
I have Chagas.
Chagas is blood-borne and causes heart disease. It can go undetected for decades. 2 years ago, Stark happened to learn she had it after donating blood. What did the doctors tell you?
Well, that's kind of hard because the doctors don't tell me nothing. The doctors here in Texas do not know what Chagas is. I went to an infectious disease doctor for my medication. He had never treated anybody with the disease.
The doctor had never treated anybody with this condition?
No, no.
Stark doesn't know when she got it, but she knows how. You know that you must have come into contact with some kind of so-called kissing bug.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, sometimes a kiss isn't just a kiss.
And no, it's not. This is a deadly kiss.
Typically found in most of Latin America, kissing bugs are now popping up in the U.S. and spreading Chagas. The CDC estimates 300,000 people in America have the disease, a number considered to be grossly underestimated by Dr. Hotez's team at Baylor. Here, they're studying the bugs as part of research into Chagas. It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. Imagine that being on your face at night while you sleep. It can either bite close to your lips.
Is that where it tries to go? Is it trying to get to your lip?
Yeah, it will actually go towards your lip, and that's why it's called a kissing bug.
The bug carries parasites, those fast-twitching objects you see, which enter the bloodstream and eat the cells surrounding the heart. A third of its victims will develop heart disease. This is a mouse heart with Chagas.
See how it's dilated, and when it stops beating.
Oh my goodness.
And the point is, this is not a rare disease. 9.4 million people living in poverty have Chagas disease.
Frustrated by the lack of attention these diseases are getting, Hotez helped establish the National School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor, the only one of its kind in North America. With financial backing from nonprofits, including the Gates Foundation, the doctor and his team are doing what Big Pharma isn't. So what happens in here, doctor?
So, Michael, what we're doing is we're making vaccines.
So far, they've made 6. They are still in the testing phase, but showing promise. But Hotez says it's still a fight to get the word out about these chronic and debilitating diseases. Most of these people have no idea that they're living on the front lines of this.
Yeah, I mean, the level of awareness of the neglected tropical diseases, not only among people, but also among physicians and healthcare providers, is close to zero.
Hotez warns the effects of these tropical diseases go beyond the physical. There's a huge social cost as well.
But they actually cause poverty. And they cause poverty because they make people too sick to go to work.
And there's this.
They actually shave IQ points off of kids. They actually reduce intelligence and cognitive abilities among kids.
And no one, not parents or teachers, are the wiser. Most doctors don't screen for neglected tropical diseases. Many patients will die, never knowing why. You could say Candace is among the lucky ones.
If Chagas is going to affect my heart, I want to know. I don't want it just to sneak up on me and I die from a heart attack and not have plans for my children. I've already increased my life insurance because I don't know when it's going to happen.
For Candace, having an exotic disease hasn't gone over well in her small South Texas town. Were you afraid of telling people?
Yes, I was. As a matter of fact, I told a very, very close friend of mine, and he told me that this is a small town and people don't know what Chagas is, and that if I told anybody that I'm liable to get a brick thrown right through my window.
So there's a real social stigma to have
Yes, there
this.
is.
In fact, it's one of the classic features of all of the neglected tropical diseases, but they cause social stigma. So particularly for girls and women, Chagas disease is not transmitted person to person.
That's something Candace Stark hopes her neighbors hear when they see this story.
It's time that my town and everybody else knows about it.
Why?
Because I'm concerned. My biggest concern is that they do not test all the blood that is donated. They do not test it. I just happened to be one that did get tested. I was one of the lucky ones.
An innocent victim finally sounding the alarm so that more unsuspecting people don't die. Michael Oku, Al Jazeera, Houston.